Okay, so, as many of you probably know at this point, Louis C.K., stand-up comedian, writer, director, uh, he had a movie, and the release of it was canceled because, well, he seems to have masturbated in front of women who did not want him to masturbate in front of them. So apparently he would ask if it was okay for him to do it, and then the women would either be shocked or scared or think it was joking, and then he would go ahead and do it, sometimes trapping them in a room, sometimes it's in an employment situation where it's just totally uncalled for, but basically he was sexually harassing women doing this. I had heard about the rumors, I want to say maybe a year and a half ago. I guess there was this Gawker article, and it didn't name the comedian, but there were lots of whispers around, Hollywood and the internet and stuff that it was Louis C.K. I didn't want to believe them because Louis C.K. was probably my favorite living stand-up comedian. I always quoted his stand-up routine, and I enjoyed his work. I liked Lucky Louie on HBO, Louie on FX. He co-wrote I Think I Love My Wife, the Chris Rock movie that I quite like. So I didn't really want to believe it, but then these allegations kept kind of stacking up, and then Tig Notaro, whose career was helped by Louis C.K., she broke all professional ties with him. Even though he was still listed as a producer on her Amazon show One Mississippi, which is a pretty funny show. Yeah, it started to seem like he probably did it. And then after the Harvey Weinstein thing broke, all of these the floodgates have opened as far as people finally feeling comfortable enough to come up and discuss when they've been sexually harassed or raped or whatever. And Louis C.K. happened to be one of them. So because of that, he had a movie that was set to be released called I Love You, Daddy. It was supposed to come out in late November. It had already screened at some film festivals, and Academy screeners had been sent out to members of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences to see if they wanted to nominate it for stuff. But then one of its premieres was canceled, and then The Orchard, which was the distributor, dropped the film completely. And then it was announced sort of through Deadline Hollywood and Variety and all that stuff that Louis C.K., now that he had stepped aside from sort of the public spotlight for a while, after he gave his kind of self-congratulatory apology thing. It was well written, but it didn't strike me as genuine. But it looks like he was about to buy the rights to the film back, and I guess he had mostly financed the film himself, and then he sold it to the distribution company, which was going to give it a limited release to maybe go wide with it. I assume, because in the past, Louis C.K. has just released things to download or stream off of his website for like $5. I think he did his show Horace and Pete, which I've never seen. So that was probably the plan. But then some hackers, or maybe not even hackers, but some leakers leaked the film to torrent sites and things like that. Because the Academy screeners have been out there, some people have been selling them on eBay for like $90 or more. So I assume somebody just found a screener or bought a screener and then just uploaded the file. So it's out there. And then a friend of mine sent me the copy of the movie, a digital copy, on his Dropbox, and he was like, I'll share this with you, but you have to review it if I do. And knowing that I was a big Louis C.K. fan, I was of course very interested in this movie, and probably even more interested given the subject matter of the film now that C.K. has confirmed the things that he was doing. And I was thinking, is it really ethical for me to review a pirated film, a film that's, it was still illegally obtained by my friend, and then he shared it with me? But then I thought a few things, because it did premiere at some film festivals, or at least one film festival, there were legitimate reviews of the film out there, some from film festivals, and critics had seen it and they were reviewing it. So the movie has been open for review. It's not like a work print that was leaked like that X-Men Origins, pre-Viz work print or anything like that. So the film is in its final state unless CK tampers with it in the meantime. But then I've also thought maybe it's unethical to review a pirated movie, but it's even more unethical to trap women in a room and force them to watch you jerk off. So, given that equilibrium there, I think I'm okay to review this film. So I sat down a couple days ago, and I watched the film. It's pretty much DVD quality, even though it was leaked because it came from the screener. Somebody blacked out the top occasionally, because when they have these screeners, usually whoever it was given to has like their name water printed on the top, and sometimes they just cut it out because I guess they didn't want people to know whose screener it was. So I watched it as a pretty good quality screener, and I decided, I was like, what am I getting here? So, the film. What is this film? I guess I should say, right off the bat, this movie is pretty cringy, knowing now what we know about Louis C.K. Prior to, if I had never heard the rumors, or he had never admitted to this, or the allegations had not come out again, I don't quite know how I would feel about the movie. I think I'd still feel it's a bit icky from how some things are positioned, but knowing now what we know, it's really cringy. Is the movie good? I don't know, but it's fascinating and it's interesting. So Louis C.K. co-wrote the story with another comedian. He wrote the screenplay, he directed the film, he stars in the film, and he edited the film. So this movie is that one man's product. He is the auteur of this film, for better or for worse. And a lot of films sort of like that are pretty autobiographical in some way. Maybe they're only as autobiographical as Nocturnal Animals, the book within the movie, is autobiographical for the Jake Gyllenhaal character, which is not really, but it extrapolates some themes of what happened in his life. But this feels not super autobiographical for Louis C.K. I don't think these exact things happened, but it's still sort of a look into his psyche, I think. And it's a little cringy. So, let's talk about the film. I don't know where to start, so I'll just start rambling. So, the movie's in black and white, and it has a certain kind of jazz score, and immediately, because of what the subject matter is, which I'm going to get to in a second, it reminded me of Woody Allen's Manhattan, the movie he made in the 70s. Louis C.K. has always sort of emulated Woody Allen, especially with the FX series Louie. That was very Woody Allen-esque in a lot of episodes, even though he played with format sometimes. And Louis C.K. himself got to be in a Woody Allen film. He was in Blue Jasmine, which is the last Woody Allen film I've seen, and that was like 4 years ago, I think. And it's a very good movie. Woody Allen, well, we have to talk about Woody Allen. So, Woody Allen makes about one movie a year, and he has been doing this since like the late 60s, early 70s. When he makes a good movie, it's pretty excellent. Blue Jasmine was a very good movie. Bullets Over Broadway, Manhattan, which this movie emulates, Annie Hall, even stuff like Deconstructing Harry I've liked. So, and he's made a lot of garbage too, but, when you make a movie a year, that's fine. So, no one really questions his credentials as a good filmmaker. But, he's probably a horrible human being. In case you don't know about Woody Allen's personal life, here it is. So, he had been in a long-term relationship with the actress Mia Farrow. And, he adopted a couple of her kids, and some he didn't. So Mia Farrow, one of her adopted daughters, was a girl named Soon-Yi Previn. And when I believe Soon-Yi was between 17 and 20, I think, Woody Allen started a relationship with her. Mia Farrow had found nude photos that Allen took of Soon-Yi Previn, and then they had an acrimonious separation. Woody Allen eventually married Soon-Yi, and they've been married for the past 20, 25 years. Because the relationship started when Soon-Yi was a minor, even though I think she was above the age of consent, it's always felt a little icky. Some people have been sort of Woody Allen apologists. It's well, at least he married her, so it wasn't something perverted. He was in love with her, and the heart wants what the heart wants, or whatever they do to excuse him because they want to enjoy his movies guilt-free. But then there's something else. Mia Farrow had a daughter. She was, I think, between 4 and 6 at the time, and it seems after Woody Allen and Mia Farrow had separated, Woody Allen had visitation rights for a little while, and his daughter, who's an adult now, claims that Woody Allen molested her in the attic during one of these visitations, and there's a lot more complications as far as what happened in the aftermath. but she still sticks by her story. She's written essays after the whole Me Too movement's come out about, like, of all the people's careers that's been taken down, why hasn't Woody Allen's? And Woody Allen also has a new movie that came out. It's getting negative reviews called Wonder Wheel. It hasn't opened around here, and I have no interest in seeing that particular one. But Woody Allen is a man who there's a very, very good chance, and there's very credible allegations about him being a child molester. So there's that. So as far as this, can you separate the art from the artist argument, which is kind of also big with this movie, I suppose. There's the idea of Woody Allen may be one of the greatest living filmmakers of all time, but he's also a child molester. So can we excuse and allow him to make more movies, or how can actors work with him because they're like, hey, I don't know anything about that, and sort of divorce themselves from that? And it's when someone does something that evil, no movie, no matter how brilliant it is, can excuse that behavior, right? And then that is sort of the launch pad for I Love You, Daddy. So, films in black and white. The score and the way it's shot are meant to emulate Woody Allen's Manhattan. And Louis C.K., as the main actor in this movie, he wears sort of like Woody Allen type glasses as the character. Glasses that Louis C.K. normally doesn't wear. So it's obviously a character choice. So, Louis C.K.'s character, and I'm not going to use the characters' names because I don't remember a lot of them, so, but Louis C.K.'s character is a very popular, well-respected TV producer and showrunner who writes, different TV shows and then sells them to networks. Kind of like Louis C.K. was. He had like a package deal with FX and stuff. He has a 17-year-old daughter played by Chloe Grace Moretz, and he is divorced from her mother. Louis C.K., by the way, in real life, he has 2 young daughters, or I don't know how young they are, but he has 2 daughters. He's also divorced from his wife, and all of that stuff that's going on in his life, he mines a lot for stand-up in his shows and everything else. So, semi-autobiographical here, I guess. So his daughter, played by Chloe Grace Moretz, as I said, she's a little, she's spoiled, and she's a little, like, bratty, manipulative. I mean, the fact that she calls her father daddy and she's 17 is already a bit of a warning sign. But she's like, Daddy, can I use the private jet to go to Florida, Daddy? She's basically like, a rich man's spoiled teenage daughter. Doesn't seem like a bad person, just kind of spoiled and, a teensy bit bratty. Sort of Instagram bratty, I guess. Other characters we're introduced to. Charlie Day plays sort of an actor who kind of works with Louis C.K. They seem to be best friends. Charlie Day's character is pretty much just the kind of character Charlie Day plays in a lot of these things. Well, Charlie Day sort of has the nerdy character he plays in movies like Fist Fight, and then he has kind of the almost mentally insane characters he plays in movies like Horrible Bosses. So this is more this is more Horrible Boss Charlie Day than Fist Fight Charlie Day. And I know people are going to hate me for this, but I still have not seen a single episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I promise I will try and catch up with it at some point because everyone I talk to loves it, and I'm pretty sure I would like it too. It's just that that show had premiered on FX around the same time as this TV show called Starved, and I liked the guy who did that TV show. He had also done a movie called If Lucy Fell, which is and he did a show on a sitcom on Fox called 2-something, which was later renamed New York Days, and I liked that movie. So he had a TV show called Starved about people with eating disorders, and I thought a kind of dramedy about a man with an eating disorder was sort of an interesting topic. So I'd watched that instead of Sunny. That show got canceled. Sunny's been on for like 15 years. Anyway, so I'll get to Sunny eventually. So Charlie Day's character is a little unlikable in this movie, let's say that. Pamela Adlon, who does a lot of stuff with Louis C.K., they're pretty much like a Hollywood creative couple where they're not romantically inclined, but they've done a lot of stuff together. She plays sort of like an ex-girlfriend / agent, I think, of Louis C.K.'s character. It's not quite clear. Edie Falco's also there as like a producing partner of Louis C.K.'s, and her job is basically just to yell at Louis C.K. about things he's doing and being lazy and stuff. It's kind of a harpy character. There's not much meat there. Louis C.K.'s character is producing a show that he has no passion for and doesn't really care to a network about like nurses or something. We don't find out much about the show. And a famous actress who is pregnant. This is played by Rose Byrne. Rose Byrne, who I've loved ever since Wicker Park. and she's kind of fallen into this niche of doing interesting comedic films lately, or sometimes not interesting like Neighbors. But she's kind of she's more popular now than she was when she was younger, and I think she's a very talented actress who deserves sort of better roles than she's getting. So anyway, Rose Byrne is an actress. She wants the lead role in the sitcom, but the sitcom role was already cast in the pilot. There's a lot of heavy flirtation between Louis C.K.'s character and Rose Byrne's character, and the movie plays it as if she comes in and she is raring to fuck Louis C.K.'s character. Louis C.K. finds her attractive. She's supposed to be like one of the most beautiful, popular actresses in the world of this. There's a sort of infamous scene now where somebody mentions that this actress is coming to meet Louis C.K. and Charlie Day starts miming masturbation for a way too long time. Miming it because like she's so hot, and knowing now what Louis C.K.'s masturbation stuff is, it's raised some cackles. The scene's not as graphic or disturbing or anything, it's just an annoying character acting like an asshole, but Louis C.K. wasn't acting like an asshole in real life when he was doing stuff, so I understand people drawing the connection. So, this is kind of a weird storyline, because you have Louis C.K., who's playing this producer who looks like Louis C.K., so not the most attractive guy in the world, not ugly either, but, and you have a very attractive Rose Byrne who seems to be coming onto him, so the fact that, Louis C.K.'s character thinks it would be, even though he doesn't like the lead actress currently in his show, thinks it would be unfair to just sack her and cast this woman. This woman seems to be flirting with him and very much into him. And I think this sort of subplot is trying to, normalize relationships in the workplace where there's an unequal power dynamic. Which isn't to say things like this don't happen. I mean, just recently, Jennifer Lawrence was starred in Darren Aronofsky's film Mother. There's there's like a 20-year age difference between those two, and they claim they didn't hook up till after the film production, but you still have this thing where someone who is technically your boss, because the director is kind of the boss of the actors, and, people get into relationships meeting people at work because people spend more time at work than they do in their personal life. They're working like 40, sometimes more hours a week, like I am. So, where are you going to meet people? Sometimes you meet at work. So office relationships happen, but when one of those people is the direct report of another person, the unequal power dynamic adds extra things to it. And the film does sort of question, like, is she flirting with him to get the role in the TV show? Because the film sets up that while she's popular, she's only ever done drama and she really wants to branch into comedy, so this is something she really wants. Or is she trying to fuck Louis C.K. because she really likes him and respects his work, and it's just an excuse to apply for this? But the whole storyline seems to work to sort of normalize these power imbalanced relationships, and it's a little weird since, what Louis C.K. was doing was sort of doing an imbalanced power relationship. Sometimes it worked with, like, female comedians who he was guest starring on a show with, or things like that. So, little cringy, but certainly far and away not the most cringy thing in the episode or the movie. So, but the main plot line, that's sort of the B story which loops into it. But the A story is that Rose Byrne's character invites Louis C.K.'s character to a party. Basically, Louis C.K. kind of has a sort of a fight with his daughter, so to make up for it, Rose Byrne invites him and his daughter to the party so that, the daughter will be very happy mingling with, famous people that she recognizes and likes. And then at this party is John Malkovich. John Malkovich's character, he's supposed to be the stand-in for Woody Allen. Now, the character is not a caricature of Woody Allen, doesn't have his mannerisms or anything like that. If anything, the Louis C.K. character is more of the nebbish, not super nebbish, but is more of the Woody Allen type. Like, if Woody Allen were making this movie instead of Louis C.K., Woody Allen would still play the Louis C.K. character, not the John Malkovich. The John Malkovich character, though, is a famous and well-respected film director and writer, much like Woody Allen, who's about in his 60s, like Woody Allen. But unlike Woody Allen, this character is a bit more I don't want to say suave, because suave's the wrong word, or debonair, but he has an air of culture or class to him, almost like a European air to him, a certain level of pretentiousness. I'm trying to think of another real-life person who this is more like, maybe like a sleazy version of David Foster Wallace as far as the air of intelligence or pretentiousness, but that's also not quite lining up in my head. But anyway, so this guy, played by John Malkovich, is also the Louis C.K. character's hero, much like Woody Allen seems to have been the hero of Louis C.K. But, much like Woody Allen in real life, there are rumors that the John Malkovich character fucked an underage girl, and also just likes young girls in general. This is sort of one of those things that everybody in the universe of this movie knows, including the Chloe Grace Moretz character. So she's initially creeped out by him, but then Louis C.K. has an interaction with John Malkovich, doesn't really go well, and at some point, Chloe Grace Moretz ends up talking to John Malkovich, and they seem to be having an interesting conversation, and John Malkovich is very good in this movie, by the way. One of the best things about the movie is John Malkovich's performance, where he gets just the right amount of, this guy's a creep, but also you can understand why a young woman would be attracted to him in spite of his age and reputation. But they're having a conversation, and even though Chloe Grace Moretz knows that he's sort of a creep, she's still sort of intrigued by him, and he knows just the right way to talk to her in this faux blunt way, which also, in an underlying way, is sort of acting as compliments that don't sound like somebody trying to hit on you. It's actually very good writing, and John Malkovich does a great job with it, but Louis C.K.'s dialogue here is also, it hits the right moment, which makes you think, does he also do this on young fans? I don't know. But John Malkovich is the best thing in the movie. So, later on though, Chloe Grace Moretz's character is shopping at like an upscale New York City like girls' clothing store, and the John Malkovich character is around there, and he makes no qualms that he's there to look at the pretty young girls, and they talk about different things about like him excusing, what he likes to look at, and there's times where he sort of demeans Chloe Grace Moretz's mental ability, but then also boosts her up. It's very sly pickup artisty, but not over the top. It's very interesting writing, and it feels real as far as how a very intelligent elderly predator with a certain amount of joie de vivre would hit on young girls, especially young girls who are intelligent but still kind of naive. It's very good writing. So, naturally, Louis C.K.'s character is a little upset about his 17-year-old daughter potentially hooking up with this 60, 70-year-old film director, even if that director is his idol. And I guess that's sort of the main interesting crux of the film, is sort of like, if you're a big fan of somebody and you've heard rumors about them, you might want to divorce the rumors from the person because you don't want to stop being the fan of theirs. You don't want to stop loving the work that may have touched you or meant something to you. And that might be easy to do from a distance if it's just a celebrity and you don't know them and everything. But then when that same person has the potential to mess with somebody you care about, how does that change the dynamic? And it's sort of it's very easy to forgive rumors when you don't have to potentially suffer the consequences if the rumors are correct. Like even in the scene where we first see the John Malkovich character, Chloe Grace Moretz and the actress who plays her friend, I'm sorry I forget her name, they're talking about, oh, he's the pervert, all those rumors about him, and Louis C.K. is like, hey, those are just rumors. You can't just judge somebody before you've heard anything. And again, knowing that there were rumors about Louis C.K., and Louis C.K. was aware that there were rumors and he had refused to acknowledge them at the time he wrote and made this movie, a little cringy. So, yeah, but that's sort of the main exploration of the film, is sort of this idea of, can you really separate the art from the artist? And is the only difference between being able to and and not is if it has the potential to harm you or the ones you love. Interesting. You know, like, I like the movie Chinatown, but if Roman Polanski was going to, anally rape an underage member of my family, I probably wouldn't give a shit if Chinatown was great. I mostly just care about that fucker being in prison. So, Okay, so that's the main plot of the film. It's sort of about Chloe Grace Moretz and the John Malkovich character start to get closer. There's the worry that, will they end up doing something or not? How will Louis C.K. handle it? Can he, after he's been spoiling his daughter, can he put his foot down? Will putting his foot down only drive her more into his arms, and all of that stuff? And meanwhile, you have this subplot about whether the Louis C.K. character and the Rose Byrne character are going to end up together, if she's going to be cast in the show, what each other's motivations are there, etc. And that's the basic plot, and I'm not going to go into spoilers, even though I don't find anything ethically wrong with spoiling this movie, considering everything that's going on. But that's the basic plot. Okay, so why is this movie so fucking cringing and fascinating? For that, we have to talk about a couple individual scenes. So, there's a scene where, after Louis C.K. has met Rose Byrne's character, he's at home in his apartment, and he's flipping through the channels, and he sees one of Rose Byrne's movie. And the movie sort of looks like a pretentious version of Jennifer's Body, where Rose Byrne and this kid are playing like Truth or Dare, and it starts to get sort of sexual, and Rose Byrne's character somehow, we don't see the footage of the movie, ends up killing the guy. And Louis C.K. is like, what is this, a horror movie? I turn away from a second, I thought this was like whatever. And Chloe Grace Moretz is like, oh, it's about feminism, it's about empowerment. And then the scene that follows is about the Chloe Grace Moretz character, who has, up to this point, I think this is only like her third scene in the movie, up to this point has been portrayed as kind of, not ditzy, but just kind of a spoiled brat. And she's talking about feminism and this sort of very easy interpretation of this fake movie within a movie. And then Louis C.K. gives her a lecture about what feminism is. And yes, later in the film, the Louis C.K. character is talking to the Rose Byrne character and says, like, I fucked up, I was mansplaining. Yeah, but calling it out later does not excuse what you're doing in a previous scene. And it is really fucking cringy to see man who sexually harassed women in a movie talking to a woman and explain to her how she doesn't know what feminism really is, but he, Louis C.K., does. And now, no matter how naive or how whatever the Chloe Grace Moretz character is, that, yeah, I mean, she's portrayed as a 17-year-old who may have only heard a couple feminist buzzwords and doesn't know the difference between, TERFs and SWERFs and second wave and third wave feminism or whatever. She hasn't taken any, special courses in college yet. She hasn't even gone to college. Despite that, there's just something about a man telling a woman, you don't know what feminism, let me explain what feminism is, that is just, And yeah, I think the movie is trying to have its cake and eat it too in the scene. Like, you're supposed to, even if you knew nothing about Louis C.K., you're supposed to sort of inherently cringe about an older man telling a younger woman what feminism is. But you're also supposed to play it as in that the character is not that smart, or at least not up to this point. She's later revealed to be a bit more intelligent. But she's not as smart as Louis C.K. character, so as a father, he has to tell her these things so that she can get her life. Because she's also sort of portrayed as someone who is aloof and doesn't care about school. Like, she still takes extra time out of school, even after spring break, to go visit friends. She's portrayed as being carefree and irresponsible. So by positioning Louis C.K. as an authority figure who's trying to make her responsible and portraying her as irresponsible, the movie is sort of stacking it in favor of the man, even though what he's doing is otherwise cringy. So the movie's trying to basically say, hey, this guy's right because he's smarter and he's trying to tell this girl what's what for her own good, but at the same time acknowledge the creepiness just to... I feel it's acknowledging that not because Louis C.K. thinks it's creepy, but it's acknowledging it because Louis C.K. is smart enough to know that people would criticize this if he didn't call it out himself and make it a plot point. Because Louis C.K., he's many things, but he's not an idiot. That's a cringy scene. I guess I should just jump into it. There is one scene in this movie that is the crux of everything wrong with this movie. So, the Louis C.K. character and the Rose Byrne character have just had sex. Like, their little will they, won't they flirtation has been consummated, and they're lying in bed with each other. At this time in the movie, the Chloe Grace Moretz character has gone overseas to France and has been hanging out with the John Malkovich character and some other hangers-on of John Malkovich. So Louis C.K. is afraid that his daughter and John Malkovich are fucking. He's upset that he didn't stop her from leaving when she was a minor, and he technically could, but he's been spoiling her so much that, you know, based on precedent, you know. So he's worried about this. And the Rose Byrne character, who we already know did date the John Malkovich character, or at least fool around with him when she was younger, admits that when she was 15, she had a sexual relationship with a man who was in his 50s. And then they have a conversation where the Louis C.K. character says to her, "That's not okay, you were raped." And the Rose Byrne character is like, "How dare you tell me what happened to me? You don't get to dictate the narrative of my life," type thing. And there's a lot about this. Okay, so if a man who's in his 50s is fucking a girl who's 15, that is statutory rape. That is legally rape, even if the woman is quote-unquote consenting. So in the strictest sense, in how the majority would view, that is rape. Having this conversation with these two characters and positioning their points of view to these separate characters is awful, because Louis C.K.'s character is basically speaking what is right, that, you know, if a 50-year-old shouldn't be doing that, it is rape. But because we already have this earlier scene of Louis C.K. mansplaining to his daughter, this has sort of a thematic connection of a man telling a woman what's what, thereby undercutting Louis C.K.'s argument that this is rape. Then you have the Rose Byrne character, who is female, saying that you do not have the right to dictate to me what happened, whether that was rape or whether it is not. So, because of that previous scene saying that this is an asshole who mansplains and tries to co-opt what a woman's thing is for his own benefit, the film is positioning her argument as the correct one. So, because of that, the film ends up arguing that it is okay for a 15-year-old girl to decide for herself, because she's mature enough, to fuck a 50-year-old man. This movie is through the back door, and in a way that is so intelligent that it's morally reprehensible, arguing for statutory rape as consensual, saying that how dare an older man decide what a younger woman can consent to, and equating that with a man telling a woman what feminism is. And by taking this backdoor circuitous path, it is de facto excusing Woody Allen and Soon-Yi Previn. Louis C.K. is completely ignoring what he did with his 4 to 6-year-old daughter. It's very clever how Louis C.K. does this, but it's morally reprehensible that he's doing this. That is statutory, that is rape, hands down, but you are co-opting the narrative of someone else's life who's portrayed as okay with it. Whether someone in real life would truly be okay, whether they realize it or not, there's psychic or psychological damage that people don't even realize from stuff like that. Man, that's weird. And it does this again later, because the Chloe Grace Moretz character is 17 throughout most of the film. But she turns 18 in the film, And so they have this conversation about, well, what's the difference between being 17 today and being 18 tomorrow? Does someone end up growing up or being more mature? And then the film also starts to argue that the Chloe Grace Moretz character isn't. So it's also arguing that, maybe a 15-year-old or 17-year-old's not mature, but an 18-year-old's not mature either, so these lines are just arbitrary. Look, maybe lines are arbitrary, but they're still set. They're still the fucking law. And we can argue about whether 18 is an adult or not, but just because we may argue about that, or we may argue about whether 17, where in some states 16 and 17 are age of consent, as we learned from this Roy Moore thing, and 15 is not the same thing. Basically, because you might argue what's the difference between someone who's 17 and 364 days old and 18. Maybe there's some hairs you can split about that, or things you can parse. But the film is sort of de facto then making a jump between 15 and 18, which is not the same. I don't know about you, but David at 15 and David at 18, they're not exactly a day apart in their maturity or intelligence or anything like that. Anyway, so the movie tries to excuse statutory rape by positioning it as an argument for female empowerment, and that by arguing that an underage girl is raped, if you are a guy, you are imposing upon a woman in a sexist manner. That's the argument the movie's making, and the earlier conversation about the feminism stuff and the mansplaining, and then positioning the two arguments as coming from Louis C.K. on the statutory rape side, and Rose Byrne on the it's not rape, it was consensual side, stacks the deck. Like, flip it in that conversation. If it were Rose Byrne saying, I was 15 and this man took advantage of me, and Louis C.K. was like, well, no, you consented, you came on to him. Everybody would jump on that scene if the movie tried to argue in favor of Louis C.K. there, but by making it gender swapped and having the woman, and again, these aren't real people, these are characters. Louis C.K. wrote this. It's not like an actual real life woman is arguing this, and then, we have to take and decide how this woman's view versus society's view are different or anything, and maybe, there could be real people like this, and we can, there can be think pieces about it, but this was just Louis C.K. making a specific decision in order to make a specific point. And the whole purpose of this movie seems to be to basically excuse Woody Allen, because who are we to say, who are we to impose upon the two parties involved what was happening? Which is also a backdoor de facto rationalization for Louis C.K.'s behavior. And because of that, this is fucking cringy. Now, will everybody watching this movie read that into it? Now, a lot, I think, will. Prior to the revelations, I'm not sure. Maybe they would have just seen the Woody Allen portion of it and not the Louis C.K. portion of it, as far as whose behavior it seems to be excusing. But by consistently having the Louis C.K. character against his daughter hooking up with John Malkovich, and by the end of the film, spoiler, they don't hook up. They never sleep together. She has her 18th birthday party. She goes to visit him. It seems like they might, but then she decides not to, and he doesn't, and John Malkovich doesn't push it. So she makes the proper decision, and then her and her father have an argument about how he didn't set boundaries for her and all this stuff, and then they become estranged and things. So, the movie thinks that if we have our protagonist consistently be against this, then he's the good guy because we're rooting for this not to happen, and therefore the film wants us to believe it's against this happening, while at the same time, these substantive conversations that happen in elongated scenes are trying to pile up to put it in the back of your head that these things are technically okay, and that you're just a prude or you are a sexist man by saying these things aren't okay. And trying to have a de facto feminist excuse for pedophilia or ephebophilia, it's a species of doublethink too diseased to consider. So, yeah, and I'm sure I'm forgetting other scenes that are just is interesting to look at, but that's the main thing I took away from the movie. And I watched the movie and I'm like, yeah, you're really going there, Louis C.K. You're really, yeah. So as I said, the movie's interesting to analyze, and I think it talks about sort of, divorcing work from the person and these issues about how the genders align with their perception of sexuality and this stuff. But despite all of that's great for like think pieces and essays. I mean, if nothing else, I think this film in some form or another, whether Louis C.K. ends up releasing it or if it just ends up out there in the ether as a pirated movie, this thing's going to be analyzed in film criticism classes for a while, and maybe even psychology classes or gender studies and women's studies and things like that. But is it a good movie? Well, how do I decide if it's good? Is it well directed? Not really. There's a lot of just basic, like, static medium shots. It's not as well directed as Manhattan. The score is interesting. I like seeing new black and white movies, even if Louis C.K. is not the best visual stylist. It's smartly written while it makes its reprehensible points. John Malkovich is great in it. I think the Chloe Grace Moretz character kind of has a little bit of an arc where she starts out bratty and spoiled, and you start to see that there's a little bit deeper stuff inside of her, and that she's been a bit stifled by not being stifled by her father. Her father has given her so much freedom that it's made her a stifled person inside. And that's she does an interesting job there. She's a fairly good actress, but she's not given roles like this that often, so she's good in that. Rose Byrne, I just like Rose Byrne, even if her character is basically the proxy for Louis C.K.'s excuse of reprehensible behavior. She's an interesting character. Yeah, but we later find out in the movie that she just wanted to fuck Louis C.K. because she likes his writing. She didn't really care too much about the TV show. Trying to get on the TV show is just an excuse to fuck him, which is also kind of reprehensible because that assumes that, if attractive women are coming in to audition for a show, they don't care about their acting, they just really want to fuck that producer because he's rich and powerful. But anyway, that's a whole other fucking story. Her character there's so much wrong with her character, but I like seeing her, but I just like Rose Byrne, so I give her a pass on that. Charlie Day's pretty annoying in the movie. He does get one really good laugh. At an earlier point in the movie, he's like, do you ever, I would just ask the John Malkovich character if he fucked that kid. I bet no one everyone's too shy to directly ask him. And then later in the movie, he asks, it's like, hey, so you fuck that kid or whatever? And the way John Malkovich kind of weasels out of that while pretending to be direct is really good. But aside from that, he's pretty annoying. Is the film funny? Sometimes. There are a couple legitimate laughs in the movie. Even though the movie's probably more on the drama side of dramedy than comedy. So I did laugh a few times, but mostly I was just cringing, and I'm just like, oh, is he really doing this? Is he even trying to hide this? He's just trying to excuse the worst fucking things. And I don't know. So look, should you watch it? Yes. I think the movie is interesting enough to analyze that you should see it. Now, if you have a problem financially supporting Louis C.K. because of what he's done, then maybe you'll figure that pirating is the lesser of two evils there. Personally, I've watched enough movies from people who are horrible. Victor Salva molested a kid during one of the filming of his movies. I still like Jeepers Creepers. I still saw Jeepers Creepers 3. But there's an argument to be had about whether we should even further consume the art or the entertainment that these people make, and I don't know where I fall on that. But generally, I figure this was a movie that was already finished, it's completed, it can't be undone. If it's out there, I'm fascinated to see it given the subject matter. So I would recommend seeing it, but whether it's good is different. But but there's a lot that's well made about it. It just has a morally reprehensible message, and it's very clear that Louis C.K. thought he was clever and that maybe people wouldn't pick up on how he's manipulating it within the film to make his point. Because this is the kind of, like, pro-pedophilia argument you see on, like, fucking 4chan or something, and it's rough. It's certainly not close to the best thing Louis C.K. has done. I mean, a random season of Louis, which can also sometimes be cringy for different reasons, or even Chris Rock's I Think I Love My Wife, a movie I think is vastly underrated and I really like up until the very end of it. It's better than Pootie Tang. I mean, at least there's that, so... I guess that's all I have to say about the movie right now. If you saw it, what did you think? Leave a comment. How did you interpret the film? Do you think I'm reading too much into some stuff? Or do you think I'm giving Louis C.K. too much credit to do what he's doing in the movie? Or did you find it just as cringy as I am? Or does what's come out about him make you refuse to see it even through piracy? I don't know. So, I did my end of the bargain.